From our Bible study class, they think about you all the time, so they want to have you. Yeah, you go to your own Bible study.
Good morning, all. I think it's about time to start. I would love to have you join with me and sing our first hymn. It's actually a chorus out of Matthew 6, Seek Ye First. And we'll go through the whole thing twice because it's very short. And on the final time through, I would love it if you guys would sing the regular part, and I will do an alternate part. So just keep singing like you have the whole time. It'll be wonderful.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all here. A few years ago, well, not too long ago, our son gave us a little plaque saying, "Blessings are all around us." And I think we are so blessed to have this church right on our doorstep. So welcome to everyone.
Please join me as we sing Rock of Ages.
Which Reading this morning is from Psalms 37. You will note that it is noted 1 through 6, but we're going to extend that just a little and read a few verses more. It says, "Never envy the wicked. Soon they fade away like grass and disappear. Trust in the Lord instead. Be kind and good to others. Then you will live safely here in the land and prosper, feeding in safety. Be delighted with the Lord. Then he will give you all your heart's desire. Commit everything you do to the Lord. Trust him to help you do it, and he will. Your innocence will be clear to everyone. He will vindicate you with the blazing light of justice, shining down as from the noonday sun. Rest in the Lord. Wait patiently for him to act. Don't be envious of evil men who prosper. Stop your anger. Turn off your wrath. Don't fret and worry. It only leads to harm. For the wicked shall be destroyed, but those who trust the Lord shall be given every blessing." Together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Let's join together and sing "It Is Well With My Soul."
Oh, say This morning we are deeply grateful for a gentleman who is going to be giving his testimony. All of you know this gentleman, but the more you sit down with him across the table with a cup of coffee, the more you are endeared to him, the more you admire him. And when he told me about what he's going to be telling you in just a moment, it's just inspiring. You will be inspired, you'll be encouraged, and most of all, your faith will be encouraged. I guarantee that. Would you please welcome Dr. Cy Vaughn.
Good morning. Good to see everybody here. This is it. Don't forget to see this. It's on. The definition of prayer in the operating room is that it occurs in a life-threatening setting, and you pray for a quick answer. On March the 6th, 1985, I was awakened about 5 o'clock in the morning with a telephone call from Dr. Jack Copeland, University of Arizona. He's the chief of cardiac surgery. Dr. Copeland said that I transplanted a 32-year-old man 2 days ago, and he's rejected his heart. I can't pace him. Rejection medicines failed. I don't have another donor. I said, well, Jack, that's tragic, but he's going to die. And he said, well, I know that you're working on a prototype of an artificial heart. And I got out of bed and said, no, we're not going to do that. The FDA will hang us by our thumbs if we do that. I haven't even told the FDA about this prototype. And he said, well, I have a question for you. Do you think that this heart will keep this man alive for 12 hours till I can get another human donor? And I prayed, and I believed in it. And I said, look, I have to get my crew, get a flight. He said, no, Si, I figured I could talk you into this. So there's a University of Arizona jet on the tarmac, Sky Harbor. So get your crew and get there. You can be here in an hour and a half. So I called my scrub nurse that had been with me for years, and her name was Patricia Lowell. And I said, she says, hi, what's up? And I said, well, I'm going to put the heart in a patient in Tucson. She said, a human patient? I said, yes. Get the crew, get all the boxes and things, and have Kevin Ching, who's a Chinese dentist that was expert in plastics, who built the heart. How ironic is that? The pump technician, John Austin, and Pat and I were the crew. So we got to Sky Harbor, got on the jet, and took off. As we lifted off the runway and climbed, the lights of the valley were just barely coming on. And I got inside myself thinking back to my childhood and where I was going and what I was going to do. I looked out at all the houses and I said, none of them know anything about this now, but tomorrow the world will know about this. God, be with me. Well, about that time, Kevin came up and said, I need to talk to you about this heart. I said, well, what? And he said, well, I made a slight change in the insertion protocol. I said, what? And he said, it's very simple. It won't bother you. You can do it. Don't have faith in it. And I said, tell me about it. He said, and he went into this very complicated thing about the different way to insert the heart into the human heart. He said, you simply use these purse string sutures. And when you pull it up like a tobacco sack, it'll lock. I said, Kevin, that'll leak like a sieve. He said, no, no, no. And I said, enough, just go back to your seat. And so Pat leaned over and she says, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to talk to Copeland. So we land at the airport and fly a helicopter to the university. There were a huge fence screening off the crowd. There was 200 or 300 people that had gathered when they broke on a news release from the University of Arizona. And that release said that Dr. Copeland was going to be the surgeon. And I said, well, that's interesting because he don't know how to do this. So we get into the hospital. One of the residents took me to the operating room. I put on a scrub suit, walked into the operating room and looked over the screen at the head of the table. And Copeland looked up and said, welcome. And I knew in an instant, looking at the heart and the space in his chest, that our heart would fit and that it would work. His heart was black. It was like it was not moving at all. It looked like a fishing can of bait worms. Very scientific description, but that's what it was. So I excised it. I cut the heart out, and when Pat held a basin up, I put it in the basin, and the heart was so heavy that her hands dropped. And the anesthesiologist says that this man is drowning. He had water pouring out of his endotracheal tube. And Dr. Copeland said, what do you think? I said, does he have family here? He said, yes, his mother's here. So we walked outside into this private room for patients. And she got up and held out her arms and said, can you help my son? I said, I don't know. We have to talk. So I explained to her that this had never, ever in the world been done before. The artificial heart had not been used as a bridge to retransplantation, ever. And we talked on for a while, and she cried, and she said, I just have one question. If that were your son back there, what would you do? I said, I'd get him an artificial heart and give him a chance. And she hugged me and said, go do it. So I walked with Dr. Copeland to the scrub sinks. We didn't talk, except when we got to the operating room, Dr. Copeland said, if you'd like, I can be the surgeon of record on this. And I have a lot of protection that you don't have. And I said, no, the problem is you don't know how to do it. And it's our heart. So would you please go on the other side of the table and help me do this? And he did. And I said, also, would you have your scrub nurse trade places with Mrs. Lowell? This is going to go fast, and I don't have time to teach her. So I opened the incision, and we got started, and he helped a lot. We got the heart in, and Kevin Chang, who was running the power source to the heart, said, what blood pressure would you like? I said, well, why don't we try 180, Kevin? That's pretty good. So we did, and it was humming along very nicely. And I prayed again, and I said, Lord, you tell me when to come off. And he didn't answer me. So I said, come off the pump. Came off the pump and everything was fine, and we were getting ready to close the incision, and the chest suddenly filled with about 2 quarts of blood, this massive bleeding. And I said, go back on the pump. And he did, and asked Copeland to pull the heart back and rotate it so that I could find the bleeding source. And it was on the very back of the heart, on the septum, but it was accessible. So I put a stitch in it, and it stopped. And we came off the pump satisfactorily. And once again, it happened. and I found another bleeding source. And it didn't stop. And I said, Lord, where are you? What can I do? And I heard this word ring in my head, believe. And I said, you know how to do this, fix it. And I did. And he came off the pump and woke up. I walked up to the head of the table, away from the operative site, and looked at his face, and he opened his eyes. Thank you. So we walked outside. I kept the patient in the operating room, not going to the ICU. And one of the ladies who was the press manager, press is a big thing at the University of Arizona, said, I know you're tired. Why don't you go down to the doctor's lounge and have some coffee and a sandwich? And I said, okay. So I went down to the doctor's lounge, and when I walked in, there were a bunch of surgery residents in there, and they said, what are you doing down here? I said, what do you mean? She said, Dr. Copeland's holding a press conference in the auditorium. I said, why aren't you there? I said, well, I didn't get invited. And he said, come on, I'll take you. So we walked up to the auditorium, and I sat down on the very last row, and there was a agent there from Reuters press that recognized me and came. He says, what's happening? And I said, I don't know. And he said, Dr. Vaughn, we can go live, global, right now, right here. Can I talk to you? He nodded to his people. The strobe lights came on. The back of the auditorium lit up. And he started asking me questions. Well, the people in front saw this and started migrating back to listen to it. Copeland came back fiercely and said, that's it, gentlemen, no more questions. He grabbed my elbow and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm answering questions about my patient. He said, it's not your patient. I said, Jack, as long as that heart's in his chest, he's my patient. And it took me a while to get over that. So when we went back to I got back to the operating room, the dean of the medical school was there and talked to me and Dr. Copeland and said, you guys the FDA is not very happy with what you've done. Come out here in the hallway. And I looked out the window, and the world press had moved in. There were these huge, not antennas, but the big round things for television. And I was reminded of toadstools in the wet grass in Louisiana. And he said, the FDA's will be here in 2 days. Be there. So 2 days later, we walked into this huge room, about the size of this room, and it was full with lawyers, administrators, and nursing people, and the FDA. There were 2 of them. And the first words were, Dr. Vaughn, Dr. Copeland, we got you. You broke federal law. We're going to take your license, fine each of you $1 million. And it was this quiet. And Jack said, you want me to talk to him? I said, no, I'll talk to him. I said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go outside, and you're going to tell the world press that what we did was the only possible thing to save this man's life, and that we wouldn't do anything wrong. And if you don't do that, because he had offered to take away this threat, if I would do that, I'm going to tell the world that you guys tried to blackmail us. You got 5 minutes. So they walked out, and in about 10 minutes, they came back in, and they said, they agree to that. We'll do that. And I said, fine. So 2 days later, I went home. When I got to my office, Sharon, my secretary, handed me a stack of messages. You remember the spikes in the offices with little ping notes on them? It was almost a foot high. And I said, I'm not going to look at those things. Give them to PR. And she said, well, you should look at the top one. And it was the manager at Nightline, ABC television. And this lady came on and she said, introduced herself, and she said, we'd like for you to be on Nightline on Friday night. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. And she says, why? I said, I've had a date with my wife for a long time to go to Pebble Beach for a week, and I'm not going to break it. Get Copeland to do it. She said, we don't want Dr. Copeland. He didn't do the operation. She said, just a minute. So she walked outside and made a call, came back. She said, here's the deal. If you'll do this Friday night, we'll fly you and your family up to 20 to LA. You could do Nightline there. And Saturday morning, we'll fly you to Pebble Beach. I said, you got a deal. When we got to the hotel the next night to do the show, we walked in and it seemed to be very formal. We had an escort. My wife, Barbara, was with me, and my son, Michael. They put them in a side room and took me down this hallway. And there was about a 10 by 12 foot square of wall painted blue. It looked very beautiful. And on the floor were pizza boxes and a couple of beer cans. And they started, working on me and powdering my face. And I could hear the theme music coming up. And before that, and I forgot to mention this, I called the ICU in Tucson, and the patient was stable, and he was awake. And I said, thank you. So we went in, and all of a sudden, the music was coming up, and I had this thing in my ear, and a little short guy named Shorty came in and says, Doc, we got a problem. New York's complaining that your head's shining, so we've got to put some more on that.